the ball, the color-coded balls or whatever.
Well, yeah, each Christmas and each Easter, they came out with this and stuff. Life magazine and Time would make a big point of saying, okay, this group of scholars have come up with this reading of the scriptures to say, and he indicates, something that we can definitely say Jesus said,
Right.
or well, we're not so sure, or no, not at all. It's
Right.
not there. And so that kind of discussion is very helpful. I find very helpful because so much of the stuff that we've got going on within the church, and this is what I was dealing with, which is part of the reason why probably years too late I left the church as far as being a pastor in the church.
Right.
Getting up there and saying these things, talking about the scriptures,
Right.
reading the scripture in the first place, and then talking about them in some fashion. And I realized, no, this is not true, and I don't want to be up there saying things that I know from my own reading,
Right.
and my own thinking. Both things is saying, no, I can't say this. And occasionally, towards the latter time, maybe in Monterey when I was there doing that, I was part-time and I didn't have to worry about getting fired. I just realized I have to kind of introduce the scriptures,
Right.
the lessons, whatever 2 or 3 lessons I would use from the lectionary that church had, and I would just simply preface by saying I think it's probably good to be aware of this in our understanding and hearing of the scripture reading out of the whatever gospel or other part of the New Testament or Old Testament, because I felt it was important to know that,
Yeah.
rather than just simply hearing it and letting it just kind of register kind of uncritically, I guess, or whatever word would be
Yeah.
applicable. And I realized I can't keep on doing this. It's because a lot of times what I would say in my homily may not be contradictory, but I would just simply be injecting things that, I think it's good to be thinking about some of these things. And I thought, well, there are a lot of people out here, or not a lot, I didn't get to that part, at least, except once or twice, in the congregation who are kind of, like you say, with the sacrament,
Yeah.
accepting this. And I don't need to be up here in front of them saying these things that are going to be casting doubts or questions about this for them that probably are not appropriate.
Right. So it's like you didn't want to bring in sort of like the Borg material too much.
That attitude, I guess, maybe the way he and John Dominic Crossan
Yeah.
and others were saying,
Right.
no, I don't think it was maybe okay to do it within a study group when you got more of a setting where you can deal with this in an informal way and you
Right,
can kind of
right.
share opinions and thoughts where you won't feel like you're, oh yes, that's heretical, or I don't know what to think about that. So I would do that in the adult studies,
Yeah.
and that was good. I enjoyed that a
Yeah.
lot. It was really good. It was good. It was good give and take for me, as I hoped it would be for the adults,
Yeah.
people who might be long-standing members of a church. What do I know about that?
Yeah.
I'm not long-standing in anything except the fact that I'm walking around, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But I don't have a job or anything that's I can say, oh, I've been in this church my whole ministry. Like some
Yeah.
big territory.
So how many churches were you in total?
Well, I'll say them to you. You can count.
Okay.
There were 3 churches in Vermont,
Okay.
part of a little circuit
Yeah.
each Sunday. Okay. 1 church in Canajoharie.
Okay.
Let's see. Then I went down to graduate school. Came back up to Corinth
Okay.
or Corinth. And then after that, it was Thomaston, Connecticut.
Okay.
And after that, it was down to Fisher's Hill in Virginia. And I'm leaving out one church. It was Carneysville in West Virginia. I
Okay.
forgot that one. That was part-time. And then after Fisher's Hill in Virginia, let's see, where did I go then? Oh, went up to Monterey.
Okay. In Western Mass.
Massachusetts. Yeah, Western Mass. Those are the churches that I was serving as a
Okay.
pastor part-time
Yeah.
and full-time.
Okay.
So I wasn't there. The longest time I was at a church was in Corinth, 7 years.
7 years?
Yeah, I've never been in a church. I never lived that long in any place any longer than
Right.
7 years, except here now.
Right, yeah, in retirement.
Yeah, right.
So you're like, I mean, you're like 105 years old or something now, right? I can't remember.
Could be.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
the skin gets a little crusty, and
Yeah,
blood
yeah.
doesn't circulate quite as
Right.
well.
Yeah,
So, anyways, when you're not, if you're a part of a group of people for more of an extended period of time, maybe it's easier, maybe because you've established relationships where you can kind of talk more openly and frankly. And I could do that only in the sense of a study group. I could not do it from a Sunday morning because there were too many people there on Sunday morning.
yeah,
And especially going south, you really are hitting a wall.
yeah.
And that's part of the reason I ended up in Massachusetts after being down there.
Because the South was too like fundamentalist kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, I was working basically with small churches. My brother, who was the epitome of the churches. He always had big churches, like Greenwich, Connecticut,
Right.
Simsbury, Stamford.
Yeah. So rich Connecticut.
Oh yes,
parishes.
Gold Coast, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yeah, Poughkeepsie. He was there with IBM going in. Yeah.
Okay.
So and he was very academic, PhD, all this kind of stuff. And he always wanted me to do more than what I was doing. He thought, I was kind of wasting my talent with these little dinky churches out in the country.
Yeah.
But I was more comfortable with them. I liked it. I mean, it was I could relate people to
Yeah.
people easier than I can to folks, because I was interviewed to go as an associate pastor in Stanford. And I don't know, I came away from the interview feeling I'm not really sure this is the culture that I want to
Right.
be a part of. And it's a good thing because after the senior pastor died a year or two later, my brother came became senior pastor.
Yeah.
I don't think that would have worked.
Yeah, that would
I would not have worked.
the snow show.
No,
Yeah.
that would not have worked. He had a different idea. He was very much invested in the church in a way that I was not invested.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that really boils me sometimes, is that both my father and my brother and I were so invested in the church as pastors that we neglected our families.
Mm.
That's the tragedy
Yeah.
that I keep coming back to over and over again, is realizing. And before my brother died, he had some kind of illness. He was diabetic and stuff, died younger than he needed to. But we were at Weston Priory. I was going there once or twice a year for a number of years, and
Yeah.
I went up there, and he decided, I'd like to join you there sometime. I said, okay, well, you have to kind of set up your own reservation and get into the Priory. So he came. I didn't want him to. I wanted to be there by myself or with other guys. But he did, with his paper bag full of whiskey and whatever,
Yeah.
He was drinking too much.
Yeah.
Functional alcoholic.
Okay.
And the thing that stands out in my mind is that we were in the lounge at the house where we were staying, had housed a number of guests, and I let him have it. I said, a big problem here for us, and I think for you, being very accusatory,
Yeah.
is that you gave so much of your life to the church that your family really suffered. And I know they did. I
Yeah.
know his wife and I know the kids really kind of took it on the chin.
Yeah.
And I realized, I was doing the same thing in a way, but not to the degree that he was.
Right.
But I could see that, and it led to the divorce. And I don't know what damage it was done to the kids. The kids were in school, high school, or thereabouts when the divorce was happening. And
Right.
so, we still have our contact, our relationship. I think they understand me better.
Yeah.
I understand them. But I never said it to my father, but I know he did. He was down at the church, it seemed like every night of the week. Not just daytime doing stuff, he'd be down there doing whatever. And it's not to say that he wasn't engaged with us as a family and doing things, but it was always, he was so heavily invested and infected by the church, the traditional church, and the Christian
Right.
gospel, and doing a lot of his gospel work in England, wandering around as a lay minister, going to different churches, you know.
Right.
That, as with both of us, my brother and I think that his relationship with us was not what I would consider to be a healthy relationship. I think the church did too much, which is part of where I come from as far as my animosity
Right.
and maybe anger, which can be volatile at times, and as far as saying things or whatever that would probably not be well received by people, even at the Quaker meeting.
Anger at the traditional church kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So let me ask you a question. Say like there would be, you know, you could just get up in the pulpit again and not have any worry about how you were going to be received, and you just wanted to sort of speak from the heart
Mm-hmm.
about like this book, meeting Jesus for the first time,
Mhm.
right? What would kind of like the essence of your positive message be?
I think that's why I kind of found the last chapter speaking to me, because
The last chapter of the book.
of the book, you know, when you read it, you'll probably see that. I think it's picking up on the little bit that we do know about Jesus and what he was saying and what he was doing, which is very little. And it's a, when you say positive can be negative in the sense that this is a life, this is what Jesus was saying, which is pretty tough, pretty hard. I mean, at the time that he was working with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, those who were invested, you know, talk about investment, invested in the Hebrew faith.
Right.
And the ritual that was a part of their ritual, very
Right.
much so with the temple.
Yeah.
Just like the Catholic Church.
Well, so like from their standpoint, Jesus' message was very negative.
Well, yeah,
Maybe, right?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. But they were not open to hearing what else he was saying.
Right.
And so what little we do know, say picking up on what Borg has and what Croissant and others have filtered out, is also very affirmative.
Yeah.
It's not just negative about, you know, you guys, you Pharisees and Sadducees, you know, you're viper's den, and et cetera, et cetera. And you're really dealing a number to the people out here and making them dealing with what I think comes in the Christian church, which is coming out, I think, also the central part of the Christian faith, is that sin is the big thing.
Right.
And the church wrestles with the fact that we are born in sin, and we continue to go through our life and we establish the ritual, whether it's confession or whether it's the sacrament and the confession that is a part of the sacrament, or whether it's going into the confessional,
Right.
and doing this year after year after year. We have to do this because we were born in sin, and if we do not do this, we're going to go to hell, or
Yeah.
some variety thereof.
Right. And that's the message that you reject.
That, I say, is a part of the Christian faith, though.
Right.
Because it's, as you said, you know, 2,000 years or so
Yeah.
of that stuff we are so steeply invested in it
Right.
that we cannot get ourselves away from it. And so we feel we've got to do these things, say these things, whether prayers or whether it's worship or sacraments or whatever, in order to be able to secure our place after
Right.
death.
Well, that's where this is kind of leading to where Rohr's book goes with the universal Christ. You know that, you know, it's more about, you know, the original blessing, to use Matthew Fox's term,
Right.
rather than original sin, is that we all have the divine seed, you know, and it's just about bringing that out. And you can bring that out whether you're in a Christian context or a Buddhist context or just not even a religious context at all. You know, that's the basic thesis of his book, The Universal Christ, is that it's sort of, we all have that inner Christ in us, whether we like it or not. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so that kind of, you know, seems to be in a way where Borg is probably going with the stuff
It
too,
could
right?
be, yeah. I'd be interested in knowing if Rohr has, read Borg, or
Yeah.
and Croissant, who was always a Roman Catholic,
Yeah,
and I guess remained
Yeah.
within the Catholic Church as opposed to, what's his face, Matthew Fox.
yeah. So you ordered that Universal Christ book. Did you get to it yet, or?
Yeah, I've been reading it piecemeal. I'm finding it difficult, I think, and I've been trying to think about why I'm having difficulty with it. And it's partly language. I guess I'm getting into, I'm trying to understand his vocabulary.
It's kind of very informal, I think, right? Is that one of the, that's kind of, I had a little bit of hard time with, it's like, in the beginning, like there would be a sentence and then he would put an exclamation point
Yeah,
after it.
yeah.
And that was kind of jarring. Why are these random exclamation points?
Uh-huh.
Seemed like kind of a little too conversational in tone, maybe. But I think the stuff that he's tapping into is pretty deep, and he does cite a lot of various quote unquote authorities.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in it. I'm about halfway through it. So I'm working my way through it. I'm still having difficulty
Yeah.
with the language and the way he's expressing things, and kind of wonder, well, what are you doing as a Franciscan?
Yeah.
What's the traditional
Well,
Catholic Church?
I'll be
in your
interested.
life?
I'll be interested in your book
Oh.
report at the end. You know.
Hmm.
You know. You know.
I'll see if I can give you something that's intelligible,
Yeah.
and if it's not, then that's probably a book report.
That's a book report and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
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 No, anyways, and part of it is what's going on now, just within our own big social world
Yeah.
of what's happening in the political stuff, and this pandemic stirs up
Right.
a lot of things
Yeah.
that are, I guess, a part of it. I mean, it's part of our life, and it's part of what's going on, and people start thinking about,
Yeah.
what am I doing? What's going on here? And people get all bent out of shape because they might die.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With the
I'm thinking-
pandemic stuff.
Yeah, and I think, well, that's a lot of bullshit. More people are dying every day
Yeah.
than there are people are dying from this pandemic, but it's just because there's no vaccine available
Right.
that we cannot go back to it and say, the list may help us. If we get it, maybe it's our warrant, our death warrant.
Yeah.
And that's maybe to belittle it, and I've mentioned this once or twice to some people that don't particularly appreciate it. And I'm saying, each winter we have more people dying from flu
Yeah.
when there is a vaccine
Yeah.
than are dying currently in this, but that's not the way to do it. I guess it's not a way to talk about it.
Well, part of it is like, even though it's like, it's a pretty simple thing to socially distance and cover up your face, and it's like, you don't want to accidentally kill somebody's grandma. You know
Accidentally?
what I
No.
mean? And so maybe if you cover up your face, Joe Blow's grandma doesn't die.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of, that's kind of the way I look at it.
Sure.
I mean-
Well, anytime you go and visit people in the nursing home,
Yeah.
which you know full well, I've been in so many nursing homes and so many hospital rooms that, it's something you think about, but you don't have to have that physical feature like wearing a mask
Right.
or keeping 6 feet distance kind of thing as a part of it. So that's something that is a fairly heavy duty reminder of our mortality, I guess.
Right.
And most people don't do very well with mortality. Let's put it that way. We don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Well, dying sucks.
Well, it may when we get there.
We don't know. Yeah.
So
Or maybe it's great. I think
Well-
there's some quote from Walt Whitman, it's something like, and death is different than what we supposed, and luckier.
well,
So who knows?
Yeah.
There's
maybe.
Uncle Walt. maybe he got some message from above, or
Uh-huh.
maybe he's just, in his transcendentalist fog. Who knows?
it's hard to know. I think about all of these things. You do think more about these things as you get older because that's just.
So like you're
it's just
82, right, or something like
83.
that. 83. Okay.
Yeah, same age as your father.
My father's 84, but close
I'll
enough.
be 84 pretty soon too.
Okay. Yeah. So you're my. So can I call you Uncle Keith?
No.
No. Yeah. All right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, today is July 6th, the Dalai
Yes.
Lama's birthday.
Yes.
You know, I was gonna walk down to Northshire to buy that new biography. You want to take a walk, or
Yeah, I'm gonna go, and when I get through and go back, I'm placing this order with Brooks Battenkill Books on a review of a book which kind of emphasizes the political aspect of what's going on today.
what's the name of that book?
I can't think of the name of it.
Okay, but it's
But
it's a current
It
book.
was reviewed in the Times from Sunday. And I
Oh,
thought,
it's
I've
reviewed
gotta
in the
get
Sunday
got a
Times,
good-
okay.
Got a good, really good review.
Okay.
Saying, you know, if you've read Paul Krugman or other significant opinion writers in the Times, you'll really like this, because this author is saying the same thing, but he's putting it within a context which is much more interesting, and I think probably more readable, describing what's going on today within the bigger Republican Party and Trump and all the stuff that's going on, which is really pretty profound in many ways, you know.
Yeah.
And how we have become a country over the years, not just with Trump or recently, we have become a country of the elite. It is the elite who have become the power brokers in this country.
Yeah.
And he cites, you know, he's giving examples, he's not just blowing hot air.
Right.
How people, when Teddy Roosevelt was around, and Franklin Roosevelt, and other people ran, they all did their things with the elite people who were running the railroads and industries and stuff of this nature, and that they are the ones who are getting the tax breaks, and even though they think they're not getting them, they find a way to do that, and it's just become such a formative influence in our country that we don't really have a middle class in a true sense of the word.
Isn't this basically what Bernie Sanders has been talking about all along?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta cut out all this
Yeah.
foolishness as far as giving tax breaks and stuff to the wealthy people and letting them get away with not paying their fair share. So he is saying it.
Yeah.
And probably Elizabeth Warren is saying the same thing in another way. I don't know. Maybe not so much. But
All right. Well, let's get ready.
okay, let's walk down there, huh?
Let's do it.